What is up, Joy Dunne? Thank you so much for joining me today on the What's Up podcast. I'm so excited to have you. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. This is just really cool. Doing good. Grinding through finals, and getting to winter break soon. So everything's going good, honestly.
That's awesome. What's like the biggest final that you're stressed out about?
One of my nonprofits class got a long paper to write for, and only have an hour and 45 to do it. But once it's over, class is done with. So
Then you're good.
then I'm
That's good.
good.
There's been some times when I would be taking finals and it's like your last one and you're just at the end. You're like, I don't even care at this point.
Yes, you're starting to go through Carmen and like, okay, if I got a zero on this, what's my grade still? Like making sure you're
Yeah.
still good. Kind of at that point with my finals.
That's funny doing like the math in the midst of it.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that. Well, Joy, I'm going to ask you something I ask all the guests on the What's Up podcast. What are you all about right now? I know it's probably hockey, but what are you all about right now?
Yes. Away from the rink, I would say finding local coffee shops, especially in Columbus, there's a bunch of really good ones. And so I think I'm always on the hunt for something new, something good. Like my new favorite place is now Maudine's in the city. I don't think I'm saying that right at all, but yeah. And then I try to get the girls to come with me. Whoever likes coffee, I'm like, you want to go? Let's go. So yeah,
That's fun. Coffee shops are great. So, Madine's, did I say that right? We both don't
yeah.
know.
Yeah. We both don't know it. You could spell it out.
And when you say the girls, are those your teammates that you're bringing
Yeah.
with you?
Yeah. Especially I'll take along the freshmen. They don't have cars either, but whoever likes coffee, I'm like, you know what, we should go try this place or this place because in Columbus they have like a coffee run. I want to do it eventually sometime in the summer when I have more free time, but that's on my bucket list for sure.
A coffee run, what does that mean?
It's kind of like I don't even quite know, but it's you go to like different coffee shops and you all get like a vanilla latte or something, and you go through all, and then at the end you get a T-shirt. Like
That's kind of fun.
people are running marathons out there, but I'd rather do that. I'm
Yeah.
not quite the
That's
runner.
you know what? You got 4+ years of ice hockey to
Yeah.
do, and then you can do the running, the long distance. That's so fun.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Mhm.
a lot of things like that going on in Columbus. I just met with the Run with Christ founder, and
Mhm.
so it
Mhm.
seems like there's a lot going on in campus, and I would love to get to that in a little bit. But I do want to ask you a little bit about the Dunn family because
Mhm.
you have a very unique situation. You're one of six. You have
Yeah.
six siblings, and you're the
Mhm.
youngest.
Oh yeah. Oh
That
yeah.
is so fun.
I absolutely love it. I mean, growing up, it was a battle. We would always compete, and I'd always press their buttons. But being the youngest, I could get away with it. But now, truly, like this sounds cheesy, but they are my best friends. I at least call all of them at least once a week. Even though we're all in different stages of our life. Like my oldest just had a kid. We absolutely love talking to each other and spending time with each other. And they've also been super supportive and helpful through my hockey career since they've basically seen it all, done it all. So like I'm really fortunate to have them.
And so you're Aunt Joy. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Aunt Joy?
Yeah, I call myself Auntie Joy Joy. Now he's a little young, so he can't quite say that, but we're working on it. We're working on
Auntie
it.
Joy Joy. I love that. And you have such a unique name and such a beautiful name. Is there like a story? I know there's a lot of J's in your family, but is there a specific story around the name Joy?
Yeah, so all my siblings are J names, and it wasn't like intentional. Like my parents weren't even like planning on having six of us, but they did. And my mom wanted to keep all the names in the family, and so then the J pattern just kept happening. But originally, I was supposed to be named Virginia Ethel because a lot of my family's from Virginia, and then a great grandma was named was Ethel. But my dad's like, my child will not be named that. Like, no, no hate to people out there with the name Virginia, anything like that. He's just like that. It's not going with the fam. And so, my mom one day during Christmas time, when she was pregnant with me, was like looking through all of our mail and whatnot, and there was a Christmas card that had in big bold letters Joy. She's like, "Oh my gosh, that's it. That's her name." So now I'm Joy Virginia, so still in the family. But yeah, that's how it came to be. Not as dated back as my other siblings, but from a Christmas card on one random day.
I love that. Well, you know what? That's so cool because now anytime I look at all these Christmas cards that we're gonna get this year, I'm just
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
think joy, joy, joy. I'm gonna think about you. So that's
Oh
such a
yeah.
fun story.
Growing up, I thought Christmas was all about me. So definitely was humbled in a good way.
That is amazing. You know what? If I was younger and that was my name, I probably would think the same thing. So
Yeah.
it's all
hmm
good. Well, when you think about just your life with your siblings and getting to grow up with them, is there like a specific memory that sticks out to you when you guys were all together? Maybe it was like a family car trip or something that a tradition that you guys have all done together just as siblings. Like, how would you describe one of those moments growing up with six siblings?
Yeah, I would say like all six of us in the house was rare because some left early for college or to go play juniors or to go do something for sports. But during COVID times, we kind of had everyone back. My older sister couldn't because she was in Colorado, but we would play hockey together. And I feel like at this moment, we were all kind of burnt out from hockey. Like we were just like meh about it. But getting to play with each other, I think, kind of helped us like relive the game. Like it was just fun. Like we competed hard. We're very competitive with one another. But it was really fun. And I'd also say we can't all see each other on holidays and whatnot. Again, people are starting their own families. Busy with hockey, whatever it is. So, but we have this tradition now where we do Secret Santa amongst all six of us. And that way we don't have to buy six gifts for six different people. Save some money, but that's a tradition we've started. And by the time we get to Christmas, everyone's already figured out who everyone has. But it's still something sweet to like try to include each other while we're still in different states or different countries.
Yeah, that's so fun. And Secret Santa is something that I've done in friend groups and on teams, but it's crazy. You have such a big family. You're like, we're doing it in the family, right?
Oh yeah, like us younger ones are like, we're not buy like there's no reason to buy this many gifts. But then my older ones buy everyone gifts still. I'm like, this defeats the purpose of Secret Santa. I'm not complaining about the gifts, but now I look bad. I gotta get more gifts going.
No, they're very generous. They're very generous.
Very.
That's awesome. Well, I love learning more about your family, and I like what you said about like being able to play with each other helped you guys not get burnt out from hockey, right? Because when it is your main sport and it's something that you're all about, you do it all the time, right? And so you kind of need to do things like that. Kind of play like for me when I was playing a lot of pickup basketball growing up.
Mhm.
Or AAU basketball, if I went to go play pickup in my backyard with my neighbors, it kind of like rejuvenated me and made me feel like, oh, wait, yeah, like this is exactly what I love to do. And so I love that you said that because it is really, really true.
Yeah, and my older sister, um, like again, they've been through it all. They've experienced the burnout, the highs and the low with hockey. But before every game, like all the text she sends me is just like, "Have fun today," like because at the end of the day, like you just want to enjoy it. So it's a very simple text, but like I know how long it took for her to get to that point where it wasn't just this, I have to grind it out. I have to do this, or you need to score this, or do this. It was just like, have fun. Like I hope you enjoy it. And I like that text really does. I'm like, you're right. Like this is just supposed to be fun.
Yeah, that's a great reminder before you go into your games because you're also playing at a very high level, right? You're playing
hmm
in a very competitive environments. Ohio State, Team USA, all the name it, you've probably done it. And so for her to be able to say that to you and pour into you in that way, it's
Yeah.
not like you're going to play a pickup ice hockey game, right? I don't know if they would call pickup ice hockey. Is that a
No,
term?
you're good.
Just using that
I
for
don't even know.
basketball.
Yeah, we could use pickup. It's all right.
Yeah, pick up. Okay, sweet.
It works. It
But
works.
I like that because she's bringing that and she's pouring that into you in the most intense moments, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
very,
awesome.
very lucky. Very lucky.
That's good. Well, Ohio State. Why Ohio State? How did you end up there?
Yeah. So again, back to my siblings. Two of my older sisters went here. The two oldest, and they were kind of here when Ohio State wasn't who Ohio State now is, like an unranked team or low in the polls. But then our coach Nadine Mazeral came in, and my sisters had her in their first years. So I kind of got to see when Ohio State started building again, of like how much work was being put in by the coach and by the girls. And it was really like I was like, oh, this is a really great school. Like obviously, but then when my process came around to look at schools, I was like, okay, like I really want to keep my eyes open. Not just look to Ohio State or Minnesota, which is where my sisters went, but like um, try to see what's best for me. And fortunately, I was able to talk to Ohio State and I was talking to a couple of other schools. And it was hard because I could definitely feel my family's pull to Ohio State. And being the youngest, I was like, I'm very defiant. I want to do my own thing. Um, but everything kept pointing me back there. Like hockey wise development, like I wanted to be better from my freshman to senior year. And it was proven at Ohio State that I could do that. Like you could blatantly see from freshman to senior, like girls were getting better. And then school wise, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And Ohio State literally had everything they could offer in a major because of how big it was. And now currently I decided a social work major. I finally decided it. But yeah, that kind of helped me. Like Ohio State had everything I wanted. And a friend of mine told me to do a spreadsheet of like things you wanted, how much they weigh, because I was getting really confused and bogged down with everyone's opinions. And Ohio State just kept being like where I was getting pushed to, and culture wise, like this is the culture that again when my sister's team built and our coach built to now like um is just so different because of how much work had been put into it in the last 8, 9 years. And so I had so much respect for that. And so, yeah, I kind of just, everything kept pointing me back here. Like, and I'm very thankful it did, obviously, for the successes we have had as a team.
You just gave like the best recruiting advice talk. Like I wish I like love my decision. I'm so glad I went to Boston College, but I wish I had that knowledge and what the things that you just said while I was going through the process because it was so stressful. Like, and you just kind of talked about that, and like the spreadsheet was such a good idea.
Hmm.
I really liked what you said about is this somewhere where I can go and get better from freshman
Hmm.
year to senior year? And I don't think that young athletes always prioritize that. I think a lot of people think of like the immediate,
Yeah.
right? And to the major and all the things, but really like that was a huge part for me too, is why I chose Boston College because I was like, is this school and can this coaching staff take me from where I am right now and pull the best potential that I have out of myself.
Hmm.
And that's why I chose Boston College because that's what I believed they could do. And so I love that you said that because you're not just trying to go there and stay the same, right? You're trying to go there and excel.
Yeah, definitely. And I was, again, like this process that I had my five older siblings that went through similar processes. And so that really helped me because I had them as such a resource. And I remember getting on my first call with Coach Muzzy and like outside looking, like you think she's very intense, like you have just the utmost respect for her. And you're like, she's gonna ask me what questions I have. I don't know what questions I have, so I texted all of them. I was like, "What am I supposed to ask?" And like all my siblings, as great as they are, like sent me like list upon list of questions I could ask, and I was like, "Wow, like I'm so fortunate to have this," because like instead of being my older sister or in a different family where I'm the only one going through this, like parents, siblings don't know what it feels like. And so now, kind of what I try to do with girls back home is help as much as I can with their process if they have questions because it is stressful as much as it's very fortunate and you enjoy it. Like it can be stressful. You have to make a commitment for 4 years of your life, and any help is very appreciated.
Yeah, that's good. Joy, how would this 2024 to 2025 Ohio State ice hockey team, how would they describe you? What's your personality on the team?
Honestly, I never thought about this, but they'd say I'm very positive and joyful. They could literally would probably use my name as a way to describe me, which is kind of funny because I always feel like I get very negative or angry when things aren't going well. Like I'm very hard on myself, but yeah, they would say that I'm very um, positive. And one of my friends last year would said, like jokingly, she's like, "Hi, I'm Joy. Like Joy loves Jesus and scoring goals." And at first I was like, "Oh, that's very interesting." But then after I was like, "I'll take that. Like I'll take being associated with those two things any day." So that's my guess, but you might have to have them on the podcast yourself
Yeah.
to make sure.
Well, Joy, that's the best answer. And I just want to like really dive into that because I've experienced that in different ways. I actually, not like, no one has, I don't think anyone has really said that to me. Oh, Annabelle, you love Jesus and you love lacrosse. But I had this shirt that said, like, I love, Jesus and football. And it was like, on Sundays, I love Jesus and football. And like, I definitely got a little backlash for it.
Hmm.
But I remember like having that same thought of like, oh, like that's interesting. Like, this is
Hmm.
uncomfortable. But then having that like, reality check, being like, you know what? I'll take it. And
Yeah,
mine was just a t-shirt that I wore. That wasn't actually who I was. So
yeah,
like shout out to you because that's a huge compliment. But I do think what you said is important because I think a lot of people might feel that way if they get kind of like a compliment like that. And maybe the person saying it isn't, a kind teammate and they're kind of using it to be like, oh, you love Jesus and whatever, right?
Mhm.
But I love how you're just like, yeah, let's go. I'll take it, right? That's awesome.
Yeah, at first I was like, I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about this, but then the girl said it. She's just a goofball, and she's just like always cracking jokes. And I was like, I'll take that. Like being associated anyway with that, sure. I'll take that any day.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, it's cool when your name really reflects who you are, and it's cool for your teammates to be able to see that in you, right? Because you're playing in these heated, intense moments every single day, right? Sports
Mhm.
brings out the best in people, but it can also bring out the worst in people. And so, like, I know I've said this before on this podcast, but like my teammates, my trainers, the coaches, like people in the athletic building have seen me at my worst, right? Like they see me when I come in like at 5 a.m. looking like I just woke up,
Mhm. Oh
and they've seen
yes.
me in my most stressful times. And for someone on your team to be able to say that that's what comes out of you and like that you are living your life in that way, it's really impressive because they do see all parts of you. So it's cool that that's what they're able to reflect back on.
Yeah, I'm very thankful because I've definitely had my moments of that is like you might want to stay away from her for a bit. The competitiveness gets the best of me every once in a while in a bad way, for sure.
No, but it's all good and it's part of sports. And I do want to talk about a little bit about that competitiveness because it has taken you to some amazing places. You're coming off a national championship your freshman year, which is so wild. So first of all, congratulations. How are you
Thank
feeling?
you.
How are you feeling just looking back on that freshman year?
Yeah, I'm the freshman year. At the same time, it felt short. It felt long. Like there were moments like it's a long season for hockey, all the way from like September to March, and so there's definitely highs and lows. I mean, looking back on the national championship, sometimes I still can't believe it. I get congratulated about it, and I'm like, huh? And I'm like, right, like we just did that, especially right after because um, we had the national championship on Sunday, and then we went to Worlds tryouts for USA's on Tuesday. So like it was really brief getting to celebrate. Um, but like people were congratulating me after, and I was got so focused back on Worlds because I was like, this is my first camp. Like I'm super nervous. But yeah, like after all that, I kind of got to sit and soak it in, and especially with the girls, like I just can't believe it even happened. And I think when it really hit me was like skating to the pile, like as everyone's throwing their gloves, and I'm like, we just did that. Like all of this work, like we just got to do it. So yeah, I think it really kind of like this year's like, oh, I know that feeling. And our team looks different, but like we can do it again. And I'm like, oh, like having that feeling now makes you itch for another one, obviously. Like, winning to yourself. And so yeah, I'm like, wow. Still can't believe it happened when I think about
Yeah,
it. But being in a new season, I'm kind of more focused on winning this year's. Like it's like that happened, not for this year kind of thing. But when I think
definitely.
about it, yeah.
That is incredible. And I cannot get over that turnaround. That is like so quick. Oh my
hmm
goodness.
Yeah, it was very quick. But a few of my other teammates came with me, so that was super nice, as well. And we knew there would always be time to celebrate more, so kind of just focused where we were at, and then we got back to Columbus, got to enjoy everything with the national championship.
That's awesome. And truly celebrate for the rest of your life because it's never being taken away from you. And you're right,
Hmm.
like you're playing at the highest level, so you're not stopping. You're on a train that's not stopping. But I
Yep.
do want to just shout you out because you scored the goal to win the national championship game. Okay, can you just walk me through that moment, what that was like?
Yeah. I think when I think about the goal, I think about like the beginning of the season. Like I couldn't have guessed what the Lord had planned throughout the season, and like obviously him seeing that, I'm like looking back, I'm like, wow, like thank you, Lord, like that's so kind of you to let me do that, like to help my team in that way. And again, like that game was there was a lot of other things that helped us win that game, a lot of big block shots, a lot of big saves, and I know that, but I was like, oh, like how kind is the Lord to do such a thing, in that way. But it was cool because the play that happened with Caleb Barnes and Hannah Bilka, like both the things that they did to lead to that play, I couldn't have done. Like those are not my strengths, on the defensive side or the skill, the footwork, and it was just kind of cool to see because like it took all of us. Like you couldn't have a team of just one person who just good at one thing. Like you need a team of good of all different things. And so the positions that we were all in, I was like that's really cool to just show how a team is made up of so many different skilled players in different ways. Um, and so I was just like so thankful that they were in their positions, and I was like the shot for me. I was like, oh, like I can shoot it. Like that's a good role for me. But yeah, I think kind of just looking from like when I think about that, I think about looking at the beginning of the year. I'm like, wow, I could have never guessed what the Lord had planned, and I'm very thankful for that. So yeah,
Wow, that's incredible. And I love how you shouted out your teammates, but not only just them, but like their strengths and their role in each of that. Because you're right, everyone on a team does have different things that they're good at and things that, you're better at someone than, right? And so I love that you were able to point that out in them because also, like, less on like a, relationship standpoint, that helps you succeed when you know like your teammates' strength and you can really think about them first. Like, okay, our coach would always talk about like, know your personnel and, am I going to throw this girl a pass that's like off stick and offside when like really she's a lefty, right? Like,
yeah,
or she's a righty. Like, how can you set your teammate up for success? And I think that's a huge part of what you just said with that goal, but also just like in life. Like, how can you serve your teammates well? You can serve them well as, relationally, and you can serve them well in the locker room, but you can also serve them well on the field or on the ice. And that's a really cool example about winning the national championship game and
yeah.
doing that.
Oh yeah. I mean, it'll always be something that shocks me that that happened. But yeah, always look something again. Just how cool to be a part of something so cool with like girls that I looked up to and helped me a lot throughout the year. All of it together is just like, well, God is good. And it would have been the same. He would have been good just if we didn't win as well, because that's who he is. But he was kind and generous enough to let things like that happen.
That's awesome. Is there a part in that season, and maybe it was the beginning of the season that you mentioned, or maybe not, that was really hard and something that you had to overcome throughout that first year that maybe isn't represented on social media and people don't see from the celebration posts on Instagram?
Yeah, I think going into it, I got nominated for preseason rookie of the year for our conference, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like, um, and again, like these awards were separate from what the goal was with the team, which was to win a national championship. Like that was the focus. But in our first, I don't even know how many games, like I wasn't producing any points. Like I was, it just wasn't at nothing. Um, and part of like these awards was they're all based on points because they can't obviously watch everyone play. But I wasn't producing, and people around me started to talk about it, like, oh, she's a high recruit for a class, like she's supposed to be coming in and doing all these things, and I wasn't. Um, and I could feel that pressure of like what people had to say, and I didn't want to let people down. Um, but so it was just kind of it was hard to figure out, and I was like, oh, I know I can do it. It just wasn't happening. Um, and I don't know, like it was hard because I wasn't meeting expectations, and as an athlete, um, we desire to meet all the expectations that are given to us and more. And so, kind of working through that, and I think what helped me was again like humbling myself, like it's not about this, like it's again about our team, and the Lord did a really good job doing that, of just like how can I be a better teammate, because in reality it showed me how I was not being a good teammate, how I was focused on what I was doing wrong or what I needed to do, but that's not what the game is about. So I'm super thankful for that. Like it really did question my character, and I think what helped get me through it was Proverbs 3:5 through 6, which talks about trusting in the Lord, submit all your ways, like acknowledge Him, and He will make your path straight. And whatever the Lord wanted of me this season, like that's what I wanted to do. And like that was hard for me to submit because there are a lot of things I wanted to do, and there's a lot of things I wanted to accomplish, and I wanted to blow the water off of at being a freshman. But again, like I had to sit there. I was like, okay, well, like this is what you want, Lord, and gracious as good as He is, like I was able to receive National Rookie of the Year, And again, still
Yeah, come
crazy,
on. It's so awesome.
still crazy. And there's like that award to me could be given to a lot of different girls throughout the entire NCAA's. Like there were so many good freshmen in our class, which is great to hear. Like women's hockey keeps getting better and better. Um, but again, like how the Lord works and how He was so kind about that. Um, and that award couldn't have been just won by myself. Like that was with the help of my team. And so I think when the Lord originally was like, "How can you be a better teammate?" Because I wasn't being one. Like I got so caught up in my own issues. I think that's what helped me when I won. And I was like, "Oh well, this wasn't won by me." Like I had amazing setups. I was put in amazing positions, things like that. And like with the goal, like I was put in an amazing spot. You know, I think that's what helped me. So I'm very thankful that I didn't come out hot out of the gate, um, because there's a lot of things the Lord had to show me of how my character actually was.
Wow, that was amazing. And I just want to go back to that verse that you talked about because that clearly really like shifted your perspective, right? And maybe that was something that you held on to throughout that season. How did what was like a maybe a weekly or a daily routine that you would do to just keep yourself grounded and maybe focus on that verse or just keep your eyes on what the Lord was speaking into your life because you have a lot going on, right? You're in the thick of your season. You have these outside narratives of people being like, oh, is Joy what we said she was, right? And so
Yeah.
how do you kind of block the distractions out and are able to focus on really what that verse says and what the Lord's teaching you?
Yeah, I think with all the voices too, like they came from myself too, of growing up with such a successful family and how competitive I was. Like those expectations came from myself. So a lot of it was in my own head. And again, a lot of like I feel like a lot of athletes can struggle with this because we're athletes. We want to be the best. We want to be perfect as much as we can, which is never going to happen. But for me, it had to start with like going into practice. Like I get super anxious. I was like, okay, like I need to be perfect. Like I need to do this. Like I got to prove myself. And it was getting to a point where like hockey just wasn't what hockey was supposed to be, which was fun and something like that the Lord gave me to do to worship Him and to enjoy as gifts that He's given me. And so I started praying right before practice started, like on the ice, like just as like I need to pray. Like I'm not one that I'm not very disciplined of like I'm gonna read my word every day. I'm gonna do this, but I was like, I know in this moment I'm getting so dragged down, like I need to pray because this is a time to enjoy. Like it's gonna be hard, but like with these girls, like we had such a great team. Like I got to compete with the best. Like this is so cool. Like this is what I wanted. And so I think that helped me in the midst of like going through each day. And then I talked to a sports psych, and that also helped me. Like my brother got me connected to him, and I think that helped me because sometimes I have a tendency to dig myself into a hole that's not there. Like I'll make a problem when it's not there, and so that really helped to check that. And then again, back to my siblings, like they really did. Like you're okay. Like none of this is actually what defines you in life. Like it's okay. Just keep being you, and like that's put it short, but I think having all those resources and those people around me to help me, like that's what kind of recentered me back to what actually mattered. And to this day, like I'll continue to pray on the ice. Is also more to something to be thankful for like freshman year. Like freshman year is never going to be easy for anyone that goes through it. It's not supposed to be. And so I'm thankful for that, and I'm thankful for what my year looked like, the highs and the lows, because both were experienced. Um, and so yeah,
Wow. I love that you are able to already, like, you're only a sophomore, right? Like, you're
yeah,
not saying this as a senior, like, man, I'm already thankful for the highs and the lows, right? And you're able to
yeah.
say that just a year later. And it just is a testament to your maturity. And also, I love that you're like shouting out the support system that you have around you because it's so important. And you're saying sports psych, family, prayer, like all these different things. And it's so important as an athlete not to like shut yourself off and just be, I go to practice, I go to lift, I go to team meal, and then like I'm by myself the rest of the time, right? Like you really do, if you want to flourish, create a community around yourself. And so I want to ask you a little bit more about just community at Ohio State because you guys have some cool like faith things going on in the Columbus area. What has your faith community looked like at Ohio State?
Yeah, that's something I actually forgot to mention while I was talking about support is um, our girls team had a Bible study last year that one of the older girls transfer started, Kelsey King, and we'd go meet at their apartment, and they had the comfiest couch ever, and it was just Wednesday nights because like,
It's very
as,
important.
yes, this couch. I mean, we'd all do it. Like we'd all pay a lot of money for this couch, but um, for all of us girls, like playing for one of the best teams in the country, like it's so amazing. Like you compete, but it obviously gets hard and everyone can get tired. And so they took this time to just like rest. And for some girls, like it wasn't about like having a relationship with Jesus. It was just like spending time with the girls, like whatever it was, like we would come together. And so yeah, and that was something also realizing like I wasn't the only one that had highs and lows throughout the year, like we all did. And that helped like bond us together. Like we all went through some things that you could tell somebody but they wouldn't quite understand, you know, like how hard practice was or how hard a game was. So that Bible study was something that was really cool. And we continued it this year. So me and Emma Peschel on my team, we run the Bible study now. And we'll meet either on Tuesdays or on the road, depending on how our schedule looks. But that's just been really sweet to do because, again, doesn't like, no matter if you walk with the Lord or not, like to have this community that is based around that for me means a lot. And it's also like really sweet to hear what people are curious about with Him. Because, again, we come from all different like walks of life with the Lord. And so it's just a time to enjoy one another. Um, and so that's been really sweet of like our community here. And then there's cross sports that happens on Mondays. And I've been trying to go more. Again, sometimes the schedule can take advantage or a girl needs a ride for somewhere. And so that might get in the way. But that's something that in the next semester I really want to try and get more involved with. Just because I know how important community is. And especially experiencing it with my siblings and back home, like I need it. And so continuing to find it in the right places is what is one of my goals for this year.
When you're on the road and you're doing that Bible study, what does that look like? Is that like in the hotel room on the road?
Yeah. So we have this little book that Kelsey King gave us from last year, and it just has like a page of talking about like an athlete's perspective and a couple of verses to go with it. And it's something simple to keep it simple. Um, but yeah, we'll meet in one of the girls' hotel rooms. We'll open in prayer. We'll kind of talk about it. We'll read through it. And again, the conversation can veer completely from that to like maybe our games this weekend. Like it doesn't have to be this, but it's still so sweet because some people might open up about things going on, like I know I have. And so sometimes it's nice to hear more about your teammates away from the rink, you know, because practices can get heated. Like you're battling one another and you're like, I need some space. But then, you know, getting to talk to them away from the rink and like have that is like really sweet. And so, yeah, we'll try to find a time and, you know, some weeks it doesn't work, but try not to put pressure on it for us or for the girls, but to just be something to enjoy away from the rink.
Yeah, that's awesome that you guys do that because, you know, it's really hard to do it, but you are prioritizing it, and clearly it's paying its dividends and all the things. So, shout out to you for being the younger girl in those Bible studies, and now like you're kind of taking it on and you're leading it with your teammate, and that's really cool. So, I love to hear that. It's really awesome.
Thank you. And I will say like it's not obviously perfect all the times and like all the good things I've been saying again, I've never, you know, we miss it or I'm not feeling like getting in my word or praying about it, but for me like I have a lot of moments like that, but again, remembering how kind the Lord is to just be like to just meet me where I'm at if that's in pure exhaustion and I can't open the book or I'm also like I don't want to spend time with it. He's been really kind to help me walk through that and give me people to walk through it because it's not perfect. And I think some people think, oh, she does this and she's really like walking here, doing this, and it's really not like that. So I think I kind of had a good conversation with my sister about that yesterday. But just kind of learning to rest and not have to do something because that's not what's asked of me. But I very much get in the mindset, oh, I got to do this, or I'm needed here, or oh, how can I be better here? Like, oh, I'm supposed to be producing, like helping in the Bible study more, this and that. But like, I was never called to do any of that. Like, that was not it's not my calling. Like our calling, my sister's like, our calling is, cause she's like, what do you think your purpose is? I was like, I don't know at this point. And she was like, no, your call, like last time I checked, it's to love God and to love others.
Hmm.
And I was like, you make a really good point. So
Yeah.
kind of simplifying it.
Older sister's right.
Yeah. Can't tell her that all too often, but every once in a while they know what they're talking about with me. So I think that's been a good reminder for me of just like, it's okay. There's a reason there's grace, and there's a reason he's so kind to us.
I love that. And what's cool about your sister's advice is also that, like, maybe you can't do the on the road Bible study, or you can't go to your, what was it called?
Cross sports.
Crossroads?
Cross
Cross,
sports.
cross sports,
Hmm.
athlete Bible study meetings, and or even just your own team thing. But you are saying, oh well, I'm driving this teammate, or I'm driving this person to wherever it is, or maybe I'm just walking someone to class. That's when you can also love God and love people and
Hmm.
show them that, right? It doesn't have to be in that like curated space. As great as that is, that might not come about, right? You might need
Yeah.
to like just take the rest, and you can still serve and live out the gospel really in those ways. And so I love your sister's advice because it's very applicable to like the environment of college. So
Yep.
that's awesome.
Yeah. Definitely
Well, you
needed.
also are you also are a USA hockey player, and you got to captain this team. And so I can't get off the podcast without asking you a little bit about this. You had a post from your team's time in Sweden, and you had this long caption. And I won't say the caption because I would just
Hmm.
love for you to explain maybe like what that time with that team in Sweden was like.
Yeah, so we sometimes still talk about it on my team now because we have one of the girls that was on the Swedish team that beat us in the semis and some of the Team Canada girls. So we'll still talk to each other about it and mess with each
Hashing it
other.
out.
Yeah. But the reason I think that pair kind of came to be from it all was because the year before was my first year at USA's like development, any sort of thing with it. Because the year before that is COVID, so everything got canceled. And um, the year before Sweden, I got cut, and I was like, to me, I was like, I didn't have a good camp. Like that was the first real experience of like struggling with hockey and coming from where like I wasn't succeeding in the ways I was used to, and so I was like, people were like, oh, that shouldn't have happened. I was like, no, like I deserved it. Like I was not a good player, and I think, and that was my first time getting cut. And again, I'm thankful for that because again, I needed it. But having all these expectations around me of like you're supposed to be this good and doing this thing and getting cut there, like I felt kind of humiliated for it, and like I felt like oh I failed like the people around me. In reality, that's not what happened. Like no, the people around me that actually loved me didn't care if I did good or bad. And I have a lot of friends who don't know hockey who were like they had no idea what I was doing. They were like, "That's so awesome, Nick! You're so cool!" And I'm like, "You have like." I could tell them I was like, "I'm going to rivalry series." Like I told them that they're like, "That's awesome! That's so cool! What is that?"
Yeah.
Like they had no idea, but they were just super supportive. And so I had a lot of people like that around me as well. But anyway, going into the next year for tryouts during the Sweden year, I I played a whole year of boys before that. I tried to really work on the mental side of the game, and I tried to kind of just be the best version of myself. And I started to grow my relationship with the Lord more during that time as well. And so I was thankful enough to make the team, which was so cool and was riding that high forever. But it was so sweet because I got the honor of being named captain too. Like all the girls got to vote. And again, I was like, oh my gosh, Lord, that's so kind. Um, like, thank you. Like, that's such an honor. Like, and then I think where that prayer came from too was like, there's a couple girls on my team who were like, hey, let's do a Bible study. And I was like, oh, like, yeah, let's do that. Like, that's so cool. I want to do that. And before the game, I was like, hey, for our first game, I offered the girls, I was like, hey, would anyone want to pray? Like, we're going to go pray over here on the ice. Like, welcome to come. And so, like, I'm kneeling and some of the girls are coming in. And then by the end of it, the whole team's actually in the prayer circle. And I got to pray and I was like after the moment, I was like, okay, I can't cry. Like, we have a game to play, but that was so
I
cool.
gotta get my mind right.
I know, like, I was so cool. And one of the girls after, she's like, where's that prayer from? Like, did you come up with that yourself? And I was like, yeah, like I did. And she goes, that's so cool. Like, I was like, oh my gosh. And so like all these little things, like nothing hockey related. Like in hockey perspective, like we lost in the semis to Sweden, which was hadn't happened in such a long time for USA hockey. Like that in that part we felt very like that was very hard, especially as being a captain, like as I didn't do my job to help our team to win. Um but and so that was something to deal with, and we were fortunate to win bronze, but like all the things that happened with the Lord and the captaincy and the Bible study and the prayer, like I could have done none of that if I didn't get cut the year before. And I know that like there's so much more to that story of how what I mean by that, but we'd be here for quite a while. But knowing that, I'm like, wow, like same thing with scoring the goal in the national championship. Like could have never seen that. Like in the moment when those first things happen, I'm like, this sucks. Like why, Lord? Like I'm supposed to be doing this. I'm not doing it. Like what are you doing? Um, and kind of and like butting heads on it, and then him having to do all those amazing things. And so that like prayer kind of stemmed from that of like it was my first kind of really sharing my faith on my Instagram. And I was like nervous about it, obviously, but I was like, no, like everything that he's done, like I won't be able to tell that story, but I can't like this. I'm so thankful, and as much as I would have loved to take in gold in that, I was super thankful to have that prayer and the Bible study with those girls.
Yeah. That, Joy, that is such a cool story. And I just love getting to hear, like, I love to ask people about posts like that because you can see it, but you don't actually know. Like, you don't actually
Mm-hmm.
feel the feelings. You don't actually know the full story behind it. And that photo that you're talking about, right, with the whole team, like,
Yeah.
initially, like, it probably wasn't the full team, right? And so to see that and to know that, like, people had skated over and skated over and skated
Yeah.
over, and to know that like you were the one speaking, and like you said too, like yeah, it would have been great to win gold, and how awesome would that would have been. You probably still wish that, right? Like I wish that for
Yes.
you, but
Definitely.
yeah, do we would love the gold, maybe next time, but
Hmm. Hmm.
um, it's just cool that for you to be able to say that in such a short turnaround time. Like, oh, if I didn't get cut, oh, if I didn't, if this didn't happen, like, thank you, God, because how cool was that prayer? And
Yeah.
so I just like you're so impressive with the wisdom that you have already from just a short turnaround. And something that I think is so cool is that you're able to look back on that freshman year and be like, okay, well, the Lord brought this situation to this so he can do it again. And then he did this at
Hmm.
USA and he can do it
Hmm.
again.
Yeah.
So, man, you are just like a walking like advice machine for young athletes. You gotta blast this everywhere. That is so good.
Yeah. And that goes like I in our Bible study one day I was like talking, I was like, oh, I heard this from somebody and I heard this from somebody, and these all these pieces of advices, but like that was again being the youngest in most of my life around friends or around siblings, like age it doesn't matter in age, but like these were all people around me that did seek that wisdom. And so I was just like hearing myself say it, I'm like, wow, like I'm really thankful that all these people are willing to like sit there and talk to me about it. And even I went to counseling when I was younger too, and the wisdom they were telling me, I was like, wow, like I got a lot to learn. I got a lot to learn, but here we go.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about sports though too is like you're able to learn through your sport, right? Like all the
Mhm.
things
Yeah,
you just talked about were like huge life things and you
yeah,
learned it just from hockey. This
yeah.
is like so crazy to think about because I think, the world can kind of be like, oh, sports, like whatever, it's just for fun, but it's like, oh no, like sports will teach you so much about life, and that's why especially, whatever regardless of whatever level you're playing at. So, I
Hmm.
absolutely
Yeah.
love that. And I know you're in season and you got a lot going on, so I'll wrap it up with this question. But for young female hockey players who want to beat Joy someday, what's a drill or something that you've done to practice that's really helped you elevate your game?
Oh gosh, I think for me, a big tool of my game is my shot. So I'm doing kind of any drills with my shot. One of my coaches from last year, Peter Lander, would make me like have to put a tire out, and he'd give me a puck before, and I'd have to push or pull around it. It was a simple drill, but you'd be surprised how many shots those shots I missed. But I like to work on anything with my shot. But for me, any drill that I do, again, I'm asking others of what they do. Like Hannah Boca, for example, like one of the most skilled players I know in my life. She she texted me. She goes, "Hey, like, can you send me a video of your shot?" Like, she wanted to get better in areas where like that wasn't her strength, but like all the stuff she could do, I can't do. And so like that was really cool to see. Like for me, like when I'm also looking at drills, it's like, okay, what are things I'm not good at, and seeing other girls on my team that are good at them, and maybe asking them, hey, what are you doing? How are you doing it? Or like watching PWHL players or NHL players of like, okay, they do this really well. How do they do that? Like, I want to play like them. So how do I do that? So my drills kind of stem from asking others and like, what are my strengths and how can I make my strengths even better? Same with my weaknesses.
All right. Okay. The tire drill. Is that what you would call it?
I guess I haven't quite named it,
Okay. You got
but
to
I give
name
it
it. You got
that.
to
I
name.
gotta give it
Yeah.
that for now.
Yeah, and shout out to Hannah too. I went to Boston College with Hannah, so it is so full circle, and it's just so cool because she's the best. She's so funny. I think we had this one communication class together, and I was like so confused the whole time. It was like the one communication class that involved numbers, and
Oh gosh,
I was a
no.
mess. So she
Mm-mm.
was the best.
I love her. I would love if I could have a couple more years with her in college. I think all of us freshmen in my class last year wished that too, because she was basically one of us. So, but I'm still fortunate enough to play with her in some games. So she's pretty awesome.
I love it. Well, Joy, this was a joy to talk to you.
Thank
And
you.
truly, like, I genuinely mean that. And I want to, like, just blast this out to so many people and so many young female athletes specifically, because I think a lot of people can take so much from what you said. And I'll be cheering on the Ohio State women's ice hockey team this season and
Thank
cheering
you.
you on. So thank you so much for taking the time today. It was so nice to meet you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this.